there are some things on here, but this is.
That's great. Thank you.
I do honestly, and I will say that, I still have pictures and everything of my son from that day. But yes, there was a lot, and I'm an open book, I'm honest, and we all need to stand together to make a change, so thank
Thank you
you.
for your
I
testimony.
appreciate you all. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Would you like to have this, or would you like me to make copies?
Yeah, go ahead. Make copies of that. Any further testimony in the room in support of this legislation? We do have some testimony on Zoom. I'm going to call you. First, we have Jamie Duncan. And while we're waiting for Jamie, the second one in line will be Jennifer Navarro. So just, I think the clerk will let you in.
Just one.
Oh, just Caitlin is the only one? Oh, okay. I guess the other three have decided not to testify or aren't here, so we're gonna see if we can get Kathleen Cassidy. I see you.
I see you as well, sir.
Okay, you can start anytime, Kathleen.
I appreciate that very much. I do want to just warn you all, I'm getting over a very bad cold, so I probably sound like I'm talking through a filter or something. My name is Kathleen Cassidy. I live in Winslow. And in terms of the Department of Health and Human Services, I've sat on every side of the table. And I have a lot of concerns about the way the department is run, and specifically the Office of Child and Family Services. I support this bill going forward, but my hope is that the way it's written right now, it's simply the structure of the bill, and it's a way to set the foundation to move forward and make real changes for the children in the state of Maine. But not just the children, the families of those children, the parents, the grandparents, the siblings, everyone that is touched by the Department of Health and Human Services, and specifically the Office of Child and Family Services, deserves to be heard, deserves to be understood, and deserves to know what's going on. I want to read a very quick paragraph from a document I think most of you are familiar with. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce those rights, it is not only the right, but it is the obligation of those that are being injured to step up and take action. That's from the Declaration of Independence, which I'm presuming most of you already knew that. The other quote that I'd like to share with the organization is U.S. Senator Hiram Johnson in 1917, at the beginning of the World War I, stated, "The first casualty when war starts is truth." I hate the concept of the idea that the Department of Health and Human Services and the people that rely on their department for assistance and support, really we are at war at this point. Rather than taking responsibility for their actions and saying and telling us why they aren't doing their jobs, they're telling us why they can't do their jobs. They're telling us that they don't have enough support. They're telling us they don't have enough funding. They're telling us they don't have enough people. All of those things are real because I've worked on both sides of the table. But at the end of the day, what needs to be focused on is the rights of the children and protecting the children and the rights of the families. I heard one person talk about due process. I've been in meetings with the HHS and parents, and they don't know why they're there. They've just been asked to come to a meeting. They have no idea what's going on. I've been in meetings with DHHS caseworkers from different districts and different counties. And I've said, well, what's your SOP for this? Oh, we do it differently in every office. There needs to be consistency. There needs to be a focus on the needs for the family and the children. And the department needs to stop hiding behind its bureaucracy, hiding behind its procedures and policies, because frankly, they don't work. And they need to stop making the people in the state of Maine and the families and parents afraid to come forward.
Thank you, Kathleen. Do we have any questions? Seeing none. I don't see any further testimony online in support. Okay. I'll take testimony at the present time for anybody in the room in opposition to this legislation. Neither for nor against, or are you opposition? Okay. Come right up.
Senator Ingerson, Representative Meyer, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Health and Human Services. Thank you for the opportunity to provide information in opposition to LD 555, an act to create a separate Department of Child and Family Services. What I'm passing out to you is our letter directly from Commissioner Sarah Gagne Holmes. But to make sure that the department was here, we wanted to read our letter to you, which is what I'll be doing now. And I am Abby Stivers, Director of Government Relations. Can't remember if I said that word. So this bill would consolidate multiple functions within state government where work relates to children and families into a standalone Department of Child and Family Services. This new department would have oversight over child welfare, Head Start, and child care, maternal and child health, including home visiting, parentage establishment and child support enforcement, residential and long-term care for children with disabilities, services for children with special health care needs, services for children with developmental disabilities, and activities to transition children from youth to adult services. LD 555 would also transfer all associated financial resources, rules, contracts, agreements, compacts, records, property, equipment, and employees to the new department. DHHS is unaware of evidence that a separate Department of Child and Family Services is in the best interest of the children and families of Maine. Across the department, significant resources and effort have been invested into eliminating barriers and silos to ensure cross-system collaboration. This bill would undermine those efforts by creating new and additional silos. Creating a separate department would require significant additional resources while providing less cohesive support to children and families. Here are just a few examples where the services for children and families benefit from connection and close collaboration to other services within DHHS. Maine Care is a key partner in addressing the needs of children involved in the behavioral health system, as well as partnering with child welfare to ensure the needs of children and families involved with child welfare are adequately addressed. A prime example of this is the recent establishment of a Maine Care rate for comprehensive medical evaluations of children who enter the department's care. This service was previously provided without the benefit of Medicaid funding via contracts held by OCFS. The establishment of a rate for this service in Maine Care has better formalized the process and ensures access for providers to a consistent funding source for these evaluations. The Children's Behavioral Health Team within the Office of Behavioral Health collaborates with the Office of Aging and Disability Services, which we call OADS, on the transition of youth with mental and behavioral health needs from children's services to adult services. Another example is that OCFS and OBH continue to work closely on efforts to address substance use, given the significant correlation of substance use and child welfare involvement. Over 50% of child removals in the last decade have involved parental substance use as a risk factor. The partnerships between OCFS and OBH has led to additional training opportunities for OCFS staff, the establishment of clinical staff with expertise in substance use as consultants for OCFS frontline staff, and support for the work of Maine Care to establish the Maine Mom program. Last example, the Office of Family Independence, OFI, plays a vital role for families involved with child welfare as they provide economic assistance to families. Nationally, there have been significant efforts to quantify the link between economic and concrete supports and reducing the risk of child welfare involvement. This has been well documented by Chapin Hall, among others, and we provide a link there. Maintaining Maine's child welfare agency within the same department as OFI is critical for the collaboration necessary to continue to advance policies and practices that maximize available economic supports and reduce the need for child welfare involvement wherever safely possible. LD 555 would also transfer responsibility for DHHS child and maternal health functions, including home visiting, from the Maine CDC and the Child Support Division from OFI to this new department. There is a strong public health focus in the work around child and maternal health, and it would be counterproductive to silo this work away from the Maine CDC in a separate department. The same is true for the work of the Division of Support Enforcement and Recovery, DSER, also known as child support. The work of DSER is heavily tied to OFI's focus as it relates to the economic support families need to thrive. Furthermore, the language of 42 USC 709, Section 509, requires that maternal and child health work be housed within the, quote, state health agency of each state. Moving child and maternal health out of the Maine CDC would directly contradict this requirement and risk the loss of federal funding to support this important work. In addition to concerns regarding reduced collaboration on shared issues within the Department of Health and Human Services, the establishment of a new department comes at a cost, requiring an investment of general fund dollars to establish roles to meet the overhead needs presently met within DHHS's infrastructure, financial service center, buildings and office space, technology needs, and more. Spending additional resources on expanding bureaucratic systems is counterproductive to our shared goal of improving supports for families and children. Building out a new department would have a significant negative impact on the system improvement work being done within the department and OCFS to strengthen the workforce, ensure a breadth of community services and supports to meet the needs of children and families involved with or at risk of involvement with child welfare, and establish collaborative relationships with community providers to focus on preventing the need for child welfare involvement with families whenever possible. We urge you to vote not to pass on LD 555 and instead continue to focus time and attention on system improvement efforts currently underway, including continuing to strengthen the partnerships that are vitally important to ensure the well-being of all Maine children and families.
Thank you, Ms. Stivers, for your testimony. Do we have any questions for the department at this time? Seeing none. For the testimony, NFNA. Do we have any more testimony in opposition? Testimony neither for nor against.
Good afternoon, Senator Ingerson, Representative Myers, and distinguished members of the Department of the Health and Human Service Committee. First one. All right, awesome. I'm here to testify neither for nor against. It was tough. I thought about testifying in favor for this bill. I remember about a year ago sitting in this room with the Blue Ribbon Commission and saying I wasn't in favor. But I thought at that time I did not believe that separating children's responsibilities into a distinct department was necessary. I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure it's not true. I'm on the fence. And I'd like to share some facts. A comparison of the 1994 and 2024 kids count data shows that Maine has made meaningful progress in ensuring that children have health insurance. In 1994, 8.7% didn't. In 2024, 4.3% didn't. This progress did not occur by chance. It reflects deliberate policy decisions, including expanding eligibility to Maine Care. In 1994, only 27.5% of Maine children were covered by Maine Care. Today, that figure is 53%. And I can guarantee you that more than 53% of if it's 53%, and that's what we know, more than 53% of children go through DHHS. Federal law is explicit about early periodic screening, diagnosis, and treatment. It's the agreement. If you take Medicaid dollars, you provide EPSDT, early screening, periodic, diagnosis, treatment. All right. So that they get what they need. It's the agreement for Medicaid dollars. But despite that, Maine lacks a thoughtful, coherent, coordinated approach to ensure appropriate care for children. In fact, children's health policy within Maine Care has become increasingly fragmented. The only staff person dedicated to children's policy, the EPSDT coordinator, was recently removed and reassigned to be under prior authorization. The only dedicated children's Maine Care position responsible for coordinated policy care and communication across education, community, and health was moved under provider relations. So despite the fact that more than half of Maine's children now rely on Maine Care, there is no position within Maine Care policy dedicated exclusively to children's health. That's serious. There's a lot in here. I go through the data about early childhood behavioral health, Office of Child Family Services, children with medical complexities, and children and youth with special health care. I did a big deep dive, but I'm out of time. So I'm going to ask you to read this, but I will end one last statement. All right. So the reason I'm not for this is if we just move it into another department, then you have different letterhead. We have to have a cohesive and coordinated plan to be able to, what should the strategic plan of for children be? That must be done first, whatever we do. Without that structure, accountability is weakened and children's health policy cannot be effectively developed, monitored,
Ms.
or
Cronin.
improved. I know. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Nancy, appreciate it. I've been here on this committee for 3 years and this issue has been brought up before. This bill has been brought up before. In your experience, your long experience, have you seen OCFS make changes to address some of the significant issues that have been brought up today?
I have seen OCFS make changes and make efforts. The issue that I'm having is that the department is still extremely fragmented. So even recently, there is a child that's sitting in an emergency room and that crosses issues around behavioral health and medical health and child welfare. And there is no really good way still for that child's needs to get met. We need some policy decisions around our children, and that needs a plan. So even though things are being made, I know that they've made an effort of saying, well, what would the structure of that look like? Great. We need a plan. We need to do things in thoughtful ways. And it's not that people aren't thoughtful. It's just they are continuing trying to solve the problem at hand as opposed to saying, how are we going to care and make sure that all the services and all the children are covered?
Further questions? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further testimony, neither for nor against.
Good afternoon, Senator Ingerson, Representative Meyer, and their honorable members of the Committee on Health and Human Services. It is an honor to be back in front of you all this session. My name is Adam Bloom-Pikopoulos, and I'm proud to serve as the Executive Director of the Alliance for Addiction and Mental Health Services, Maine. The Alliance is a statewide association representing 34 of Maine's community behavioral health providers who serve over 120,000 children, adults, and families annually. On behalf of the Alliance, I'm here today to speak in an informational capacity, neither for nor against LD 555. This bill, as proposed, would establish the creation of a new department by reorganizing functions already housed and operated under DHHS. Community-based behavioral health providers recognize the importance of strong, coordinated state leadership across child welfare, children's behavioral health, and family services. At the same time, we also recognize that our current system is not doing enough to support Maine children and families, as evidenced by the U.S. Department of Justice's recent lawsuit and subsequent settlement agreement with the state on children's behavioral health. While it is clear that DHHS and the community partners, providers, and families it works with are in dire need of additional resources to meet the needs of our children, reorganizing existing offices and creating additional silos between key systems will likely not help achieve the outcomes we all want to see come to fruition. Many of our members partner directly with DHHS staff across OCFS, OBH, Office of Maine Care Services, as well as the juvenile justice system and the education systems to support children with complex needs. Any structural change to governance has potential implications for service coordination, effective cross-system communication, and continuity of care. From the provider perspective, a key consideration to consider is how a new department would interface with the behavioral health system, including children's mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. Providers rely on clear lines of authority, consistent policy direction, and coordinated oversight across systems that often serves the same children and families simultaneously. It's essential that we don't add additional layers of complexity and fragmentation to an already fragile system. Another important consideration is implementation. Particularly at a time when the state is introducing several new rules and policies in accordance with the DOJ settlement agreement that directly impact children's behavioral health services and child welfare programs, siloing off systems may lead to disruptions and delays in implementation of the very agreement meant to provide relief to children and families and better support providers. The Alliance recognizes the hard work and partnership with providers in leadership from staff at OCFS and OBH that they undertake daily to support Maine children and families. We also recognize this legislation's intent to improve our system of care, and we stand ready to serve as a resource as you consider this and other bills this session to address child welfare and behavioral health issues. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony this afternoon and be happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Any questions for Adam? Good job, Adam. I just want to mention something I noticed, and I don't know if you can speak to this or not, but you came up with some pretty compelling reasons why we shouldn't be siloing off child and family services. Do you have any reasons to think that it would be a good idea and be able to facilitate what you think is needed within the department?
I think there is some change absolutely needed, and I think whether that is a matter of resources or programs, I think there's merit and we need to do something to address the crisis at hand now. I think our testimony today was really trying to understand that this might not be the best way to do it,
Okay.
but that is to not say that there isn't things that need to be done.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your testimony.
Thank you all.
For the testimony, neither for nor against.
I'm rusty on my 3-minute clock, Senator Moore. I'm going to do my best. Senator Ingwersen, Representative Meyer, members of the committee, my name is Melissa Hackett. I'm a policy associate at the Maine Children's Alliance and the coordinator for the Maine Child Welfare Action Network. I'm here to testify today neither for nor against, though I think you'll hear that my concerns currently outnumber my support for this legislation. Overall, we support considering the optimal structure for the delivery of services for children, youth, and families. We've made recommendations to that effect recently and even included legislation to create a commission to study DHHS in the 131st. Some other states have done intentional work to restructure services to improve outcomes for children and families. We support that attention and resources to ensure that services are optimally structured. With that said, we have concerns about this legislation as a vehicle to achieve that. First, this is prescriptive restructuring with possible unintended consequences, like creating departmental silos between Medicaid and some services for children and families that could be a vital funding source. We would support a more process-driven approach, something like a task force or the Blue Ribbon Commission that studied DHHS during the 131st. I would note that that commission chose not to make a recommendation regarding a new department. There's also the question of timing and feasibility. We have real concerns about advancing such significant changes to the structure of such a large and important department at a time when the federal government is pushing fiscal and logistical challenges to our state that will require significant attention and resources, particularly for Medicaid and SNAP, which are housed in DHHS. Any discussion should also include a consideration of services that may be housed currently in other departments, like juvenile justice and corrections and other early care programs and education. Finally, I want to emphasize that a new department is not a silver bullet solution to child welfare. While there are 8 different services that are referenced in this legislation, the testimony today clearly indicates that this is about child welfare. I also would really encourage the committee to look at the child fatality data dashboard, which has been referenced here today. That data includes accidental deaths. And so I think it's important to emphasize that here, to really look at the nuances of that data. I really appreciate the work that this committee has done to consider supports and services for children and families and how to optimize the delivery of those services. We have concerns about this particular bill and the timing of it as a feasible policy solution to address current real challenges to child and family well-being and the role of government in supporting that. Rather than restructuring right now and resourcing that when the current system is already under stress and which would take time for children and families to experience possible benefits from, we would recommend the legislature focus resources on sustaining and ideally enhancing the state-funded array of services children and families depend on for their well-being. And I've listed those here. We don't have to wonder if these things will help children and families. We know from the research and evidence that they do. It's the best bang for our buck right now, and it's what's most critical to meet the urgent needs of children and families in our state. Thank you, and I take any questions.
Thank you, Melissa, for your testimony. Do you have any questions? Sam, Representative
Thank you,
Zager.
Senator. Really appreciate you being here again, provide your expertise and years of experience. Your testimony and indicates that there's potential pros and cons. Obviously, some states have chosen to go one direction and others another. Is there, if there is any research that shows, if any particular model yields better outcomes that you could share with us between now and the work session, I'd appreciate it. It's possible that there's some retrospective studies with 20, 30 years of contemporary data and enough variability among states that there might be a pattern, or maybe there's no difference. Either conclusion would be useful.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Representative. I have not seen any research to that effect. I think others spoke to that today, that there are states that have undertaken to do this for various reasons. But I have not seen any research that shows that improves outcomes for kids and families related to child fatalities or child welfare or other supports and services. Some of that may be a result of how recent those changes have been made. I will say I was on a call with some folks in Alaska yesterday who were talking about the time it takes to create this restructuring, and just really want to emphasize to folks that the thoughtfulness that needs to go into doing that, so we understand possible unintended consequences of separating things and reorganizing in different ways. And I think in a time when the system is already strained, is less optimal to then also be tweaking and moving things apart. But I'd be happy to look around. We supported legislation several sessions ago that modeled what Washington State had done. I don't remember seeing any immediate outcomes data that they had, but I'm happy to go ahead and take a look at that and share with the committee whatever I can find.
Appreciate it, Ms. Hackett.
Yeah.
Representative Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Melissa, for all that you do for our kids. And we really appreciate your input. It's the same question that I asked Ms. Cronin is, are we seeing improvements? Are we seeing efforts by OCFS to address some of the issues that have been brought up and over the past several years? Do you feel in your capacity with Maine Children's Alliance, are you seeing OCFS listening and trying to make changes?
I appreciate the question, Representative, and I will try to be brief in my response. I think the committee will hear more about this on Thursday at the Child Welfare Quarterly. OCFS has a strategic plan that a lot of time and effort went into developing that includes both services related to childcare and licensing and child welfare that reflects a consideration of around 200 recommendations that have been made in recent years. And I think there is an urgency. People want to see the change immediately, and thoughtful implementation of changes takes time. I also would say that I think you all know from the time that I stand in front of this committee, I'm always remiss if we are only looking at child welfare. We need to ask the question about why so many children are unsafe. And that cuts across behavioral health and healthcare and food and housing. And the narrowness of our conversation doesn't then allow us to really have a comprehensive approach to preventing the need for child welfare intervention, taking the strain off that agency so they can really focus on working with families that are very complex, where circumstances are really challenging, and we can really spread out the responsibility to other agencies and community partners to better and sooner support families.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further testimony, neither for nor against? Seeing none, no further testimony. Does the committee have any questions or suggestions? Oh, I don't think so. We have one more?
One on Zoom, neither for nor against. You
Oh,
wanna
I'm
bring that
sorry.
Person up.
Yeah. I believe that's Anthony Bailey.
Testimony from him too.
You say his testimony's in there?
Yeah, we have two things from him.
Hi, Anthony.
This is Anthony. I wanted to have, we recommend that Child and Family Services would be for special needs, adult children that cannot take care of themselves, that need their families. And some of them can't take care of themselves to where they are mentally not their age. So I think maybe just a amendment, a draft and a new order of the bill to make Child and Family Services for special needs adult children that cannot take care of themselves, that are need to be reunited with their families, because adult protective services don't do that. And I don't think there should be any adult protective services if they still have parents that are still alive. My father always wanted me to be reunited with him if I ever get taken away, or me being placed in children's care or what, a child welfare. So the best interest of child, recreating the whole Child and Family Services to allowing them to support developmental disabled adult children and taking custody of them, or another way of petitioning the court for parental rights and giving the parental rights to parents, to help parents get their parental rights also over special needs adult children that cannot take care of themselves. And I think making an amendment or add-on to this bill is highly recommended, because I'm mentally a child, and as experts, my doctors, many psychologists have said I was mentally a child, to where that I still act like a kid and I still need support from Child and Family Services. And I'm against it just being for children. I think it should be also for special needs adult children that cannot take care of themselves, that we make all in one. Just to make all in one, no more adult protective services, just Child and Family Services all in one.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I appreciate, you guys have any questions about it?
Any questions for Anthony, anybody? There's no questions from the committee, but I thank you so much for your testimony today, Anthony. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye.
Take care. That's it for Zoom? Okay. No more in the room testimony? Any requests from the analysts for information? Representative Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would like to unearth the Blue Ribbon Commission report from the 131st legislature
Opinions to this.
Yeah.
for review.
Yes, go ahead.
And
Representative
I think
Meyer.
it was asked by Representative Zager to Ms. Hackett, and I would like to see any comparative analysis in those states that have who have done where similar work has been done to silo the department. I would like to see the analysis of pre and post outcomes for children and families. And and perhaps a little bit of context around when those initiatives were undertaken in those states that were listed in Senator Timberlake's testimony. How long have we had that handful of states that have moved in this direction? How long have we had those separate departments established? And do we have any comparative analysis pre or post on them?
And I would like any data, this may be just doubling up on what maybe is already going to happen on Thursday, but any recent granular data on child death. That would be great to have.
Full of states that have moved in this direction. How long have we had those separate departments established? And do we have any comparative analysis pre or post on them?
And I would like any data, this may be just doubling up on what maybe is already going to happen on Thursday, but any recent granular data on child death. That would be great to have.